Thank you, Lascan Corla. I move the amendment to the government amendment that's tabled in my name and that of my colleagues. Lascan Corla, Matty's proposals and Eamon's proposals is just Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And these are just never-land plans. Actions are being announced and all the decisions are decisions that I took as Minister. For example, it has taken 5 years from the Cabinet decision to stop the purchasing of fossil fuel buses until the very first electric double-decker bus goes into operation next January. The reality is decisions are taking far too long to implement. People are hurting with the cost of fuel and inflation today, and our climate is now fast reaching the point of no return. And while we're big on glossy plans and targets, we're very weak on practical implementation. By 2022, Ireland had committed to funding a programme that would see 45,000 homes retrofitted this year and each year going forward. But instead, this Green government has reduced that target to just 22,000 homes. And we'll be lucky if we see the first of the new retrofitting grants actually paid out by the time the winter fuel allowance is paid this September. Those with rooftop renewables were legally supposed to receive microgeneration payments this time last year, and only so because I signed up to an EU law forcing this to happen, against the advice to the contrary. But these families will be lucky if they get the very first payment this month. While the focus of minister after minister, the battle cry from the environmentalists has always been on more ambition, no one has been taking action to achieve our existing ambition, never mind the new targets that we have no roadmap for. No one is prepared to answer, how will we get there? There are no answers, which I fear will ultimately leave agriculture having to carry the emission costs of its own as well as the other non-performing sectors by 2030. Along with the government giving away our offshore renewable rights as they have done already in relation to oil and gas, just to achieve our renewable energy targets. And this is all at a time when some of the so-called environmentalists are literally rubbing their hands with glee at the price of petrol and diesel, quietly hoping that it would rise by at least another 50 cents a litre. They're failing to realise that with no alternatives, all we're doing is hurting families while we continue to fail our environment. And the €500 million government climate action fund that was designed to drive innovation needed to provide the fossil fuel alternatives in an Irish context is instead being raided to replace the funding that should be coming from other government departments. What we have here in front of us is a fairy tale set of proposals from both the government and the opposition, with very little in terms of practical action that would make a real difference to families that are hurting. I've set out 10 practical measures in our amendment that will actually wean us off oil and ensure that we actually have a greener society with practical, implementable steps that can make a real difference to families today. And if we implemented those, it wouldn't have left the Minister for Transport in the situation earlier this week that the only practical solution that he is presenting to those families that are struggling to pay for the cost of petrol to get to work is to contact the local community welfare officer, or to put it more bluntly, sod off and contact Vincent de Paul. Or can we use sod anymore, Lascan Horley?